Okay, we're live now, right?
Hi, and we're here with Ksenia and Christian in Sweden. Christian was with the Bitcoin party in Sweden, and they had some dealings with the banks, and the banks were shutting down, freezing accounts that were dealing with Bitcoin this past year, and they were trying to get some things straightened out with that. And he's going to give us an update on that and talk a little bit about that, I hope. And, well, why don't you guys take it away? Go ahead, Ksenia.
Yeah. Well, we just started this conversation. It's still a bit difficult to sort of bring it informally on air. But basically, what you were saying, it's exactly what I asked. Like, you started a party to sort of represent interests of Bitcoin crowds and to expose what banks are actually doing.
Yeah.
Maybe you can repeat what, tell us what they're actually doing and what's the matter.
Yeah.
Whether it's legal or illegal and what's the actual problem.
Yeah. So basically, I've been running a Bitcoin exchange in Sweden for 3 years, and what happened is that the banks, they tried to more or less shut us down without having an legal ground for it. And what they're doing is they're freezing the money on the accounts, so that we will ourselves choose to have another bank, for instance. So they're making it very troublesome to run a business. So after having that issue with 5 different banks in Sweden, I decided, okay, it's time to actually do something about this. A friend of mine actually started a political party, Bitcoin Partiet, which it's called in Sweden. And I was like, yeah, why the hell not? And at the same time, Länsförsäkringar, one of the 6th biggest bank in Sweden, officially said that, okay, now we're closing all bank accounts related to Bitcoin, private persons, companies, everything. So they shut, and we had Länsförsäkringar at that time, so we had to, in panic, change bank. And also a lot of private persons just buying like Bitcoin mining equipment got their accounts closed as well. And there was no explanation why, no legal explanation
So
why.
even if you bought mining equipment
Yeah.
and from the company the bank knew that you bought it,
Yeah.
they would shut down your bank account.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
And did they send some sort of a warning or something like that to people?
No
They
warning.
just shut it down and
They sent. Yeah, okay. They sent a letter of notices like, in 1 month's time we will close your account.
And
period.
That's it. You
That's
have to
it.
get another.
Yeah. So I took contact with the top person in Sweden in this bank and had a lunch with him and just talked about it, and basically said, yeah, well, the board has decided they don't like Bitcoin. And that's it.
So how many banks are in Sweden? Like you said?
Not that many.
Yeah, because in Russia we have like 1,000 banks.
Yeah.
So you said that you contacted like 5 banks.
Yeah.
And 5 banks said.
Oh no, I'm losing my connection here with them. Hopefully we can get them back here shortly. Come on. Try turning off my video. Let's see if that helps. Well, that's disappointing. Hopefully they'll connect back up with us here shortly. I know that them in other parts of the world too. Oh, here they came back. Oh, no, no, that's Chris.
Hello, everyone.
We just lost Ksenia. They had a really good feed going too, and we were just starting to talk about how they were shutting down bank accounts in Sweden because of users,
Sorry, Jamie.
people's bank accounts.
Lost you.
That's okay. Chris just joined us, and I was recapping what we'd started on. And for the viewers that are just joining us, what's happening is banks were shutting down people's accounts and freezing people's accounts because they were involved with Bitcoin, even if they were buying like mining equipment or pretty much anything related to Bitcoin. And there was really no explanation for it. They were just freezing the bank accounts. And I was just going to say, this has been happening in other parts of the world too. I know even on the World Crypto Network here, Midas Marnie had one of her bank accounts frozen for something to do with Bitcoin. And it's just all over the world now because of all this panicking over money laundering too. Is if you're doing things with Bitcoin, they just threaten to shut you down. So we can go back to Ksenia and Christian now that they're connected back up with us.
Yeah, so I don't know when we actually disconnected. I was just asking about the party. So the party can't be in the parliament because of not enough members, right? But it's still a proper political party, which is like, are there any other Bitcoin parties in the world, or is it just like the first one?
No, I think it's the first one. I still think it's the only one also.
Okay.
I haven't heard about anyone else.
So technically, it can be like if enough, like in 4 years there's election and stuff.
Yeah.
So in 4 years, enough Swedish people vote for this party to can get into parliament. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that would be really good news for the political movement with Bitcoin.
You're planning to continue this kind of because like what is the agenda for this party? So basically, like to speak in general terms, like representing interests of Bitcoin users, such as like dealing with banks, for instance, or like calling government to actually look into this regulation and say. That's something strange because it's not illegal. And another thing, is it some sort of maybe an advisory board to the government or something? And
yeah, definitely, it could be an advisory board for the government because the cryptocurrency, the network, the system, the technology is moving so fast. So I think it will be very hard for the government to keep track. So if you have a dedicated team doing just that, they can inform what's going on, and money is still. I mean, money is a very important tool for power.
Yeah, but in Sweden, I heard that Bitcoin gonna probably will be regulated as an asset, right? So it's gonna be like trading cows or houses or something like that, and that's how it's gonna be perceived. You still can't put it in any category.
No, that's right. There is no category for Bitcoin in Sweden. So what's happening is different part of the government categorize it in different ways. So
it's a mess, basically.
It's a mess. Yeah, it's a gray zone mess. So it's messy for everyone involved, which also makes it a bit funny to work with.
So what is it to actually have a political party? You just have meetings of the members, or you send them out some stuff. It's like because it's like I just can't even imagine it. I mean, to have a political party, which is sort of, in a sense, single, like sort of one subject agenda, but not really because it sort of covers.
Yeah. So the agenda is money, basically, and money is quite big. But we're working very close with the Pirate Party. They have similar issues, but we're focusing on money. What also the what Bitcoin Party wants to do is to make Bitcoin a legal tender. basically so you can pay tax using Bitcoin. And also, when you can pay tax with Bitcoin, then you can use it in the stores as well. So it becomes a real
official currency.
Yes, that might be like a more longer run. And in the short run, we're working with the banks, working on both tracks.
Okay. Does anyone has any questions?
Yeah, well, of course, the problem for the banks is that it's Bitcoin is a form of money they don't control. So, of course, they're going to, whoops, let me just choose the right setting there. Of course, they're going to choose not to honor the agreement. And of course, they're going to want to reduce it to barter because that's all they can do. So I say, you know, give unto Caesar. Let Caesar have what is Caesar's. You know, let them have their bank accounts so we can function without them by getting organized.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you run like a Bitcoin exchange, it's bloody difficult to survive without a bank account. Well, unless, as you said, everyone's going to start moving the bank accounts somewhere to the countries where they're actually friendly.
There are two vectors here. One is that this presents an opportunity probably for a smaller nation state to step forward and seize the advantage by offering bank accounts to Bitcoin users. Secondly, distributed databases are on their way. Now that this technology is becoming more broadly known amongst the developer community, we see more people joining the Git repositories on GitHub. We see more developers talking about it on forums that are non-Bitcoin related. Just regular developers coming up to me at meetups in London has increased. Coming to me because they see that you know, my Twitter account is full of information about Bitcoin that presumably they find helpful, and they just want me to be a signpost. They just want to know where they can learn more because they see an individual opportunity for them as entrepreneurs to build something that they think will get traction. Now, if as a developer you go to work for a bank, sure, you can sell your time for some money, but if you see the opportunity to have a business and you think about the same amount, because given that the company in the West earns about 5 times the salary of its average employee, well, there's a huge margin there that is up for grabs. So now as a developer, they can choose, well, maybe I just set up my own company. And even if I only earn, you know, half of that 5 times value that the company earns, that will still be more than 3 times the amount that I was earning before. So yes, we're entering a marginal profit economy, probably as the efficiencies in these tools gets wider. But I also think that this appeals to the individual's capacity to recognize an opportunity when they see it and to go ahead and code and automate away a lot of the centralized institutions that we currently have.
Yeah, but I mean, right at the moment is like I'm thinking if, for instance, someone hears, "Oh my God, my account been shut down because I bought Bitcoin or something," that sort of puts people off in a sense that like Sweden operates in a way that is kind of people actually don't mind paying tax here and understand.
Yeah.
It's just like people love it most of the time because it kind of works. So it's like I think in this setting it's sort of okay to just make it completely like official in a sense because yeah.
Well, I don't mean to be glib, but I shut down my bank accounts over a year ago, and I live 100% in non-fiat systems. So I did not 100%, but 99%. So I do carry cash around on me, but I only carry enough cash that I need on a day-to-day basis. And what it really requires is a bit more planning. It also requires that you nurture your friendships and you make sure that you have a good social network that you can go to if you need something. And I'm not suggesting that everyone does this. Everyone just needs to transition into this new paradigm at their own pace. I'm not trying to force anyone else to do it. I understand that everyone has different needs, and if you've got children, for example, you may not be able to afford to do this. But if you can't do that straight away, you should definitely support the people that are, recognize that this change is going to happen whether we like it or not. And your responsibility really is to make sure that the transition that we go through is as peaceful as possible, that we don't allow this radical shift and change in the way that we run the global economy to descend into tyranny or to descend into chaos.
No.
Yeah, well, it's like I have a friend who doesn't use money at all, not even cryptocurrency, but he really, I mean, yeah, you can't.
Well, I use Bitcoins. I spend Bitcoins because mostly because I've located myself around a social network that will accept Bitcoins as payment. So if I'm in a restaurant or something, I would just pay someone in the Bitcoins and then they pay with fiat. And I actually want to fill up the banks with as much money as possible because of course they don't want money. They never have. What they want are physical assets. So they want land, they want oil. They want anything that they think you will need in the future and that you can't live without. They want dependencies because there's no point in investing as a bank. You don't want to invest in a business because if the business goes bust, you've got no principal left with which to go to them. If someone defaults on their mortgage, that's great because now you've got a physical property that will always be worth something to someone in the future. So as I don't think banks are the best thing for entrepreneurs to be using. I think they need to be more creative and they need to be looking for not necessarily outside of the box, but Seth Godin says around the edges of the box. You need to be thinking at the edges of the way to do things.
I believe in integration. When I'm talking with the banks, I'm also suggesting that why should they don't begin with Bitcoin themselves? Why don't see the benefit of this system? And some banks, I mean, the really small banks in Sweden are listening, and they think Bitcoin is a good idea. And let's say my vision is that Bitcoin will become the world currency for this planet. And to go there, I see the next natural way is that the mainstream person has access to Bitcoin, and the mainstream person today is using the bank accounts. They get their salary in the bank. So I believe the easiest transit would be actually for the banks to integrate Bitcoin.
But what's going to happen?
Yeah, and as you say, it's smaller banks. You just said it. It's smaller banks. Set up your own bank.
Set up, yeah.
I don't know if it's possible in Sweden. In Sweden, it's probably easier to set up your own political party than a bank.
Much.
It's
well,
easier.
In this country, we have
Brewery, that's
we have
for
someone
sure.
called Michael. We have someone called Michael Parsons here in the UK who's part of the Bitcoin community, and he has set up a bank before. Like it can be done. And buy out a distressed bank. You know, go look for some of these distressed sales and see if you can buy out an old bank for 2 million. Just have a whip around between the.
Yeah, I mean yeah, why not? It's a good idea. If I don't have any bank account and everyone don't find a bank to cooperate doing Bitcoin business, then I will start my own bank or buy a bank or cooperate with some other Bitcoin. That would definitely be an interesting way to go.
I'm trying to figure out whether it's evil. Like, if a bank just starts running on Bitcoin, the banks sort of rule, but then Bitcoin isn't. So I'm just wondering what it's going to be like. Yeah. Because there is really not a difference.
Well, the problem with banks switching over to Bitcoin, it just doesn't work for their business model because with Bitcoin, it's an asset-backed currency. You actually have to physically, or not physically have it, but you have to have the Bitcoin to loan it out. And with fiat, you just make magic loans out of nothing.
Yes.
And people have to pay back a monthly.
Yeah, you can't just.
Monthly thing, so it doesn't work.
Yeah, maybe.
So it doesn't work for the banking business model.
I mean, the bank could issue its own version of Bitcoin. I mean, it's like Mt. Gox, right? They had more Bitcoins in the database and what they actually had in their wallet. And they crashed. But
well, they crashed.
But I don't know. Banks, they're pretty creative when it comes to earning money.
Unless it's some sort of a peer-to-peer loan system.
Yeah.
You don't have, when you just like a classic bank sort of, when you actually do borrow money from people and then you lend it as well. But then, but then why not just doing it peer-to-peer? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because it's so decentralized that if you think, okay, how do we build a bank which is completely running on Bitcoin? Okay, so it's going to be sort of a decentralized peer-to-peer thingy. But then why do you need a bank again? Then just let all these people to lend money to each other.
What you're really looking for is a depository. That's what banks were originally supposed to be. What they turned into was these kind of retail and speculative companies that were there to gamble on the global stock market. So I really like some of these new companies. I think it was it Coinbase? I might be wrong. I won't misattribute it. But some of them were using multi-signature wallets, so that you've always got 3 keys, and you own 2 of them in 2 different ways, and they store another one. So you've got one as a paper backup, one that you use on your computer, and then they store another key. And that's so that in order for an adversary to steal the money from you at any one time, they've got to have 2 out of the 3 combination. And then what happens is the business themselves are not liable, because remember that your bank balance isn't a balance, as in it's not balanced. Yeah, it is a liability. That is actually how the banks treat it. So when you go up to the counter and you go up to the ATM to take your money out, what you're looking at on the screen are a bunch of pixels that are masquerading for a database entry that masquerades for a truth. But the truth is just a liability, because of course if everyone turned up tomorrow to take their money out, we all know it wouldn't be there. In fact, they don't even make any bones about it. It's called fractional reserve banking, because they're too busy gambling. They've got a gambling problem. These people are sick, they need help, and they need to be weaned off this desire to keep going to the casino. Say again?
Yeah.
Say
So we
again,
hear
sorry.
help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
Bank
So
too.
I love this idea of just being a depository, that you're just holding one of the keys for the other side without taking the liability. And that's still a service, and it's still a service that I would pay for.
Yes, I agree. I think so also. I think the banks are doing a good job with that, and that we could do the same when it comes to Bitcoin.
So it's pretty much the same principle as a trading place, like a market when people can just exchange peer to peer, but then this third party, what it does, it just sort of secures it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it's so difficult to be this company because like people are so paranoid after like one and the other just collapses. You know?
Well, what if they only have 1 key out of 3? So if you've got a paper backup and a localized constant use, and then they have another key, because you need 2 out of the 3, they're not liable so long as you've looked after your paper backup.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, because you don't actually use any of their like online wallets or something. You just keep everything in your wallet, and they have a third like. So someone's doing it already.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Copay, yeah.
It's Coinbase doing it.
I know that Copay is. I don't know if Coinbase is. I think I heard something about it, but I'm not sure.
it's we're doing it with our wallet. We have one part of the key, and the user has the other part. I know GoCoin is doing it also, and I think that's it's a really genius way, because then you share the responsibility, 2 out of 3, and then it's like using RAID with your money. I believe.
RAID?
RAID for your money. That's a very good way of putting it. If you're a techie and you know what RAID is.
Yeah, well, I'm sort of a non-tech reality check,
Yeah.
a little bit. So what's RAID?
It's redundant. It produces redundancy. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll Google it.
For your hard drive, basically.
I was just going to say redundant array of inline disks. It's just where you have, there was a thing, RAID 5 was, you had 5 hard drives in a server, so if any one of your hard drives crashed, you had 4 other ones to take its place. And so the chances of all 5 hard drives crashing all at once were,
Right.
pretty much astronomical. I've keys to your Bitcoin wallet, and but we're just talking about 2 out of 3 now.
Yeah, so it was Coinbase that did this announcement, so that's pretty cool. So it is Coinbase that's introducing the 2 of 3. model, which is a very good model. And then it's up to the entrepreneur to actually justify their value add. The value add in the market is a premium that the market is willing to pay because you add something on top of what's already available. So that could be like, I don't know, some kind of hot wallet that they give you with that can do like prepay subscription models to magazines. So let's say you always use this magazine and you want to front load a centralized wallet on their server that just pays your subscription every month, or maybe it just asks you to sign in with your key periodically just to sign off on all your subscriptions, you know, that kind of thing. You're giving a service that they wouldn't otherwise get. I mean, just backing up the third key is a good enough service and one that I would pay for. But it's just that sociologically and psychosocially, the people that are in these industries need to get over the fact that the heydays are over. We're now entering the hangover period. Those profit models are no longer justified. They're not going to earn the money that you were earning 10, 20 years ago, and they just need to accept that fact and move on.
Yeah, but let's say the mainstream person on the street, I mean, they're still quite far away from starting using Bitcoin.
Yes, they are. It's true.
Well, yeah, and even myself, I can see the point for, you know, if my bank account gets shut down, I'm going to be screwed because I get deposits for my monthly income that are made directly to my bank account, and I cannot receive them any other way without a bank account. So
will you be able to
shit out of luck. If
there isn't
I'm shit out of luck if I can't.
there are interesting pensioners in Russia doing. I'm not going to call names, but basically what's happening in, sorry, I'm talking about Russia again, it's sort of off topic. Basically what's happening, if you borrow money from the bank and you didn't pay, well, what is called an interest in time, they can take money off your pension, which is completely illegal because it's pension, but they still do, somehow. So some clever pensioners figured out that they don't have to receive their pension on their bank account, they can receive it on like the post, and it's sort of a bank that that post office has a bank on their own, but for some reason, if you just run there and get your pension, then the bank doesn't get it. And if you really look at it, this is sort of illegal. You can't really, well, if it's an income, it's okay. Like you didn't pay your interest, they take your income, fair enough, after being in court and stuff. You can't really get pension. So I started digging into it, and it turns out that they don't. In some cases, they actually don't only take pensions, they take like something you get for your kids, like some sort of a add-on benefit for like single parents and stuff like that. This is quite crazy, and people sort of trying to figure out hacks around it, so these benefits don't go into their bank account but somewhere else.
I mean, this is also one issue the Bitcoin party, the political party, is taking up. It's the reverse, I don't know the English word, it's the reverse burden of evidence. In normal crime, someone has to prove that you're guilty. In financial crime, you have to prove that you're not guilty. And this is completely madness. And when you look at it, the more you look at it, the more madness it becomes. It basically says that the banks can do whatever they like if they just suspect something. And the first thing I would change in the law is if the bank want to take your money or freeze your account, they need to have at least something that can be used legally in the court. And the best thing would be that they have to do it in court before they can take your money. So the bank has to prove that Bitcoin company is laundering money or something. But now they can just, no, we kind of think you're laundering money. And this actually happened in one of the banks. They send a mail, okay, we're closing down your account because we think this will enable people to launder your money. And we took our lawyer and proved that our service is actually impossible to launder money with. And they were just looking at us and said, okay, but we don't really care. And our lawyer was, I wasn't so shocked because I know the banks are banks, but our lawyer was quite shocked. She was like, but you're breaking the law. And the bank was like, okay.
Talk to the hand. Talk to the hand. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm a small startup and they're a big bank. I won't say which bank it was, but I mean,
there are only like 8 of them in Sweden, so
yeah,
you can figure it out.
And this was one of the biggest. So it's.
I mean, we're seeing that around the globe now with government and banks and everything. They're fighting to hang on to what they have, and they're using the last bit of power they have, and they're just saying, no, we don't care what you did. It's wrong. And whether it's moral or not doesn't matter. Or, you know, like money laundering to me is a fictitious act, because to keep your own money or to spend it on what you want seems natural to me, but to have the to have to account to the government where every single bit of money goes, I mean, that just seems ridiculous to me.
It's totally crazy. And I think that the next generation, I mean, we're noticing this now, but the next generation, I mean, I'm imagining the kids growing up now, they're used to this tons of freedom with technology, and I think the next generation, they won't accept it. I mean, they would only want to use money that is free, that they control, and they can do whatever they want. They would like look back on this time and like, what? So the bank had your money and they could freeze it without a legal cause? That's like medieval. And but unfortunately, it is medieval, and we're fucking in the middle of it. So I don't know. It's sometimes I just wish I could travel in time and be in that future when we're truly free.
Well, let me help this discussion forward. I just wanted to. Sorry, Jamie.
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, sorry. Right, I just want to make this point. I want to help this discussion along a little bit by getting to the heart of what is at issue here. When we talk about Bitcoin, we're talking about a distributed database with a state transition rule, right? A state transition rule that isn't this old paradigm of a user schema where you have an admin of a database with a root password that can log in and change whatever they want on a whim. What you have instead is a state transition rule that says you can only transition the entry in this database if first you have the private key that corresponds to the public key that makes the claim on the network, and second, that the longest, hardest proof of work chain will be the one that is considered true. So once you've made your claim onto the database in your network and you say, Chris pays Ksenia these Bitcoins, the first thing I have to do is prove that I have ownership of that key in the first place. The second thing I have to do is appeal to these witnesses, known as miners, who will apply a shit ton of effort and energy at checking whether or not I even have the right to do that. Then, whichever group of miners expend the most effort on the longest chain will be the ones that are considered truth. In other words, whoever puts in the most work wins. And this is a fundamentally different way of organizing the data structures. Databases rule our lives every single day. We wrap up the databases in nice shiny front ends like Facebook and Google and Twitter. But these are essentially just databases that describe the underlying nature of reality using language. They're basically just semantic structures that record the sequence of events over time. The problem is that if these databases don't accurately describe the underlying nature of reality, then after time, the universe just turns around to us and goes, well, that isn't true. Like, you literally don't have this $16 trillion you willed into thin air over the last 4 years. It just doesn't exist because there was no real value attached to the increased supply of money. No one was doing any work during that time. So you can't start using these tokens of account for work that never took place. This is why the deficit spending is completely unsustainable. Now, the people that support this and the Keynesians and so on who think it's okay to keep printing money out of nothing, they will claim it's okay because this money is backed against a debt. And if you call in the debt, you get the money back. It doesn't work like that, does it? If I borrow money for a car and all I do is go out on, long weekends and I just start joyriding in it, sure, you can come back and claim the car, but it's not going to be worth half of what I gave it to you because the car depreciates quicker than the money does. So it's no point in saying that it's okay because it's backed against debt, because the money just holds its value. Because in order to put your confidence in money in the first place, because remember, money is an agreement between people, people have to trust that it's going to hold its value. The things that we spend it on depreciate in value.
Okay, I don't know. Should we wrap up? Because I said it's going to be short, and I don't know. We just had a meetup basically here. There was a movie screening. What was the movie called? Rise and Rise.
The Rise and Rise of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So
it was a movie show and some beers, and I got stuck in the office talking to random people about stock markets and stuff.
Cool.
Okay, well, this turned into an interesting discussion. I wasn't expecting Chris to be here, so he always brings an interesting perspective to the conversation. But it was great to have you join us, Christian and Ksenia. It's nice now Ksenia can bring us these live events from her part of the world there, and Russia and Sweden and her travels.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking it's much nicer when people drop by, actually, then it ends up as a discussion. Because otherwise, if I'm just thinking of like some sort of an interview, like what I'm going to sit and ask you questions like one by one, and this sort of interrogation thing. So I like this format. Thanks, Jamie, for setting it up, because I think it's really important when someone sort of runs around catching people and another person is setting everything up.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I will be able to do it myself as well. Well, yes, should we just end it up here?
Yeah, I just want to remind our viewers that we got some other shows on the network too. We got a brand new show on the World Crypto Network called The Flip Side with DJ Booth down in Australia. It's a very entertaining show, so if you guys haven't seen that one yet, it's a real fun show to go and check out. You can see that on the World Crypto Network. And I believe starting in about 10 minutes, Midas Marnie, who I mentioned earlier, has her weekly show on, and she does a lot of shows about small business and how they can use Bitcoin, and they're about 20 minutes to a half hour long, and she's a very intelligent woman. And we also have a ton of other shows. Chris and I do a live show most Wednesdays called Chris Before Coffee. We've slowed down on that a little bit lately because of Chris's work he's been doing these blockchain passports or blockchain IDs. Guess we got to be careful not to call them passports.
I don't mind. I don't mind.
And Friday at 11 o'clock p.m. UTC, the Bitcoin group is on, and kind of a new show on the network too is Transmission with Theo. He's brought some very interesting interviews to it. He had a very interesting discussion on, I believe it was transmission number 7 with Bitcoin Drac about Viacoin and some of the possibilities for contracts and things on there. We have Dark News on Tuesdays or Wednesdays with Christoph Atlas and Crypto Combos with MK Lords. So I apologize if I forgot any of the shows off the top there. That's all I just jotted down on my note list here before we started. But thank you, Chris, and thank you, Christian, and thank you, Ksenia, for joining us. And bye-bye.
Bye-bye.